of town, I would have definitely gone to it. Well, we know you're never in the city. You see me repping the city because
Am
I'm
I
just a
not
kid.
this is still repping in a way?
Eh. Like I was saying before we came on, I feel like you had the Mahomes jersey last week for the return to video. Now you got the Kansas. You're either working on a sponsorship deal or you're gonna have to keep this going as long as it can.
Hey man, just wait and see what I got next week. Talk soon.
You got to be hype. I'm surprised you weren't in the fog for late night.
Oh man, it looked like it was lit, bro. I ain't gonna lie. They had
Shaq,
Shaq there. Shaq
Shaq
was in the
Diesel.
building? Okay.
Well, like people were telling me that it was gonna be J. Cole, that Cole was
Mm.
gonna be the guy. But
Remember a few years ago they had Snoop Dogg, and that was pretty wild.
yeah, and he had his whole entourage. Let me retweet the live video. I appreciate y'all rocking with us if you're up here. Chiefs Coast to Coast, Arrowhead Pride. This is episode 29. Having some fun with it. Let me
We're almost at
retweet
30,
this.
man. Magic number.
It's kind of crazy. I feel like time flies when you're having fun.
I agree, man. You know, as much stuff as we talk to each other. Love working with you, man. It's a pleasure to work with the great Aaron Ladd, man. You know, it's just the vibes be crazy, man. It's a pleasure, man. I'm honored. I'm truly honored.
This is perfect segue. Like it's hilarious, like how quickly people have like started rocking with us. I'm at Arrowhead, just chilling. We get there. I want to say so it was a 325 kick. I got there like I want to say 115, 130.
Okay, 2 hours before game.
Yeah. Solid. The players were already there, but we got there around then, and right away, is that Aaron Ladd? Hey, where's Mark at? Where's like people expect us to be?
Bro, every time you tell me this, I really think you be capping, but you
It's
really
not
don't.
cap. It's really not cap. The Gunnels army is deep, which is crazy because you haven't stepped foot in the city longer than a week for years now, but your imprint is still here in the city. That's crazy.
We were just hanging out this summer. Stop it.
That was cool, man. You good? Everything's good on the West Coast over there, Chiefs coast to coast. You over there holding it down. Lakers season just started, so I know you're gonna start getting stressed out already.
Oh man, I'm not gonna let them stress me out. When you have low expectations, you can't be disappointed. So my expectations are very, very low for that team this year. But we're gonna get to it. I am in LA. You know who's out here? Guy named 3-letter guy. We'll get to it later. I'm on the recruiting trail. I'm on recruiting trail.
That's a little bit of a tease. We will talk about speculation surrounding that 3-letter guy who's still working his way back to the field. We'll go down to Vegas and check in with Mark, who's still treading water. He's doing all right. We gave him to the bye week, and he's holding on. We'll check in on his picks from last week. We'll have his picks for Chiefs 49ers as well. And then, of course, we'll get into this Chiefs Bills recap here on Chiefs Coast to Coast, Arrowhead Pride podcast platform. Aaron Ladd, Mark Gunnels, man, I think we called this one. When we were talking about this game previously, I think we kind of predicted what it kind of came down to. 24-20 Buffalo wins in Arrowhead. And look, man, if you tell me Mahomes had the ball with 1:04 left and needed a score, I'm taking that all day of the week, and it just didn't happen for Kansas City on Sunday.
Yeah, and I mean, the guy that Buffalo really got for the Chiefs made the key plays at the end. Von Miller on that last interception, he forced Mahomes to get the ball out maybe a little quicker than he wanted to with his quick spin move. I mean, that's his signature move. He beat Wiley on that one, and he forced Mahomes off his spot, and it led to an interception. And not just that play, it was the other key plays down the stretch that Von Miller made an impact. Probably didn't get the sack, and he did get, 2 sacks in that game, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's not like he didn't get sacks, but even on plays where he didn't get sacks, he was able to force Mahomes off his spot, make him uncomfortable, and made him rush things. And obviously, Von Miller, he's a future Hall of Famer. He's still playing at a high level, which is very rare for a guy of his age, man. He's still a top pass rusher in this league. So that's what they got him for, to make those key plays, and especially against this Kansas City Chiefs offense. And it paid dividends on Sunday.
We kind of been doing these game grades, if you will, last week and this week. I put down in that same range, like a C+, B-, all things considered, with the guys they were missing on defense, the rookie corners. Buffalo having the extra motivations of the 13 seconds and all that, I was impressed by Kansas City's ability to hang around in the game. I mean, it felt like there were points in time in which, you know, Buffalo could have taken ahead, or they go turnover for turnover or whatever it is. That was one of my major takeaways, as well as I felt like the defense hung around and the offense kind of sputtered at points in time too, but the defense really needed to generate more turnovers. They got 5 turnovers through 6 weeks, and it's just not good enough for a team that we think needs to get more.
No, I totally agree, man. And I'll give him in that same range as well, C plus B minus. I'm actually probably going to grade him a little higher than I did against the Raiders, and they actually won that game. But you have to consider the quality of the opponent and the circumstances. I mean, heading to this game, we both picked the Bills to win. And considering you had Joshua Williams out there starting his first game, I mean, God bless his heart. You know, I went to HBCU, so I have a soft spot for him as well. But he went from guarding HBCU wide receivers to guarding Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis on an island. Some pretty big gap in talent, I would say.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the HBCUs out there, salute. But yeah, I think he did a pretty good job. But I'm going to blame more of this on Spags because he literally handed them 2 touchdowns. And the one before halftime is inexcusable. At that point, once they cross midfield, it's less than 30 seconds to go. You're just playing safe and keeping everything in front of you, and you're conceding a field goal. Why are you playing man-to-man with a rookie corner on an island against Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs in that situation? It's beyond me. And it's what Spags does. We saw it last year against the Bengals in that first game. He adjusted in the second game, but in that first game, leaving guys on an island with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I mean, you have to understand your personnel, especially when you have rookies out there. I understand you have trust and belief in your guys, but that only goes so far, man. Those guys are the best in their position, especially Stephon Diggs. So I'm not even going to blame them. That's more of a coaching thing. And despite that, you still only allowed 24 points. If you would have said before the game, and you said, if you would have said before the game, if Mahomes had the ball and you need a touchdown, you would take that. Well, I think you would have took this as well. If I said before the game, the Chiefs defense will only give up 24 points against this Bills team, you think that's a win, right? You can at least score 27. So the defense played great. Like I said, Spags blew a couple plays for them, but, you know, Mahomes threw 2 picks. The one in the end zone, I don't really blame him that much for. He gave his guy a chance. Sure, there are 2 guys there, I understand, but it's the Steph Curry effect, right? When he's shooting them 35, 40-foot threes and he's missing 2 or 3 in a row, people are like, oh, that's a bad shot. But it's not a bad shot. It's Steph Curry. So you have to live and take the good and the bad with Patrick Mahomes as well. Now, the second one, obviously, that was a buzzkill, but
I mean, hey, I got that written down because we're definitely going to get to that, and I know I'm rambling. You mentioned, and I went back and found this one in the Chiefs media guide. You said, hey, if you hold the Bills to 24 points, like I'd take that. This is from the Chiefs media guide. Since 2018, the Chiefs are 45-3 when they hold their opponents to less than 27 points. And that includes postseason play. They've held 4 opponents under 27 points already this year, and this is the rare time in which they don't win the game. I think turnover battle was something that we mentioned earlier as wanting to see more turnover generated by the Chiefs defense. But I've used this platform before, Mark, and we've stood on calling mid. Can we call mid?
Yeah, of course, 100%.
The Chiefs special teams unit is mid so far. Can we go out on a limb and say that as far as kick returning, Kansas City has still yet to find a consistent kick returner, somebody that flips the field and gives their offense a little spark when they need it. I'm not saying somebody that's going to take it all the way to the house, but I haven't really seen Pacheco even bring out. Let me back this up a little bit. I haven't seen him do it consistently. I want somebody in Kansas City from a special teams unit that can do it consistently. And I'll even extend that to Harrison Butker, who did turn his back when he made the 62-yarder and did the whole Steph Curry thing. You mentioned Steph Curry, but then you go out there and missed the one we really needed. Was it 51 or 51? Was it 51? And that's a guy that's working back. Kansas City's unit, and I'll let you go before I pull up the numbers on it. It's a bottom half unit in the league as far as special teams are concerned. And when a game like this, when it's the top two teams in the AFC and you need a turnover or you need special teams to make a play for you, Kansas City couldn't get it. And they haven't gotten it all year from the special teams unit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that we don't talk about as much as we probably should, because you're getting nothing from the kick return game. It's at the point now where I would just rather you
touchbacks. Yeah, touchbacks. Send it to the end zone. Yeah, absolutely.
Versus getting it at the 15 or 20 at this point. I mean, come on. And I know the excuse is going to be, well, he's too involved offensively, but McCole Hardman, I know he really was this punt return guy, and I want him there too as well, because he gives you some juice there. I mean, he was an all-pro as a punt returner. People forget that. And, he gave you a spark. He's turned games. Remember that Texans game when they were down 24-0? He had that punt return all the way, I think, to their 30-yard line. That kind of changed the momentum of that game.
He's shifty. Yeah, definitely.
So in games like that, you need, something a little extra to kind of get you over the top when you're playing those top teams in the league. So, yeah, I totally agree. I get why they want to have Pacheco back there. Obviously, he's very fast. He's a hard runner, but it's just not really working out right now.
Let me give you the numbers before we transition off of this. It's Chiefs special teams ranks. Punt return average 7.5. That's 20th in the league. Kick return average 20.5. That's 25th. Kick return average allowed is 26.5, which is 28th. I think that's pretty good. It just not getting enough returns, and it showed up in a game like this. Who did show up also on the offensive side of the ball was Juju. You've been asking for it since training camp. We've been seeing him and his involvement with Patrick Mahomes and kind of that chemistry in the intermediate routes, and it paid off in a big way with his first touchdown and his first 100-yard game in Kansas City. You've been asking for it, man, and here it is in video.
Oh, man. Shout out to Serta, man. Just high quality stuff right here,
producing.
Man. Look at Juju in there, just scampering into the end zone. Now we're going to see Mahomes slide in there. Did you see that slide? Look at that. That was clean. That was a clean slide from Mahomes, man. But, let's start with Mahomes. Speaking of him, the Mahomes magic, keeping the play alive.
Yeah.
And how about Juju breaking the tackle there, man? I mean, he's big. He's built like a tight end, kind of, man. I mean, Juju is a really, really physical receiver, and he's hard to bring down. I'm really excited to see it. I've been talking about it all summer, as you alluded to. He's going to be that second go-to guy behind Travis Kelce because he's working that middle of the field, man. And it's going to be open a lot with how teams play this Chiefs offense. So it's good to see them build that chemistry, and I think it's going to continue as the season goes on.
Juju Smith-Schuster, the first Chiefs wide receiver to go over 100-yard receiving in one game this year, and that kind of talks to them sprinkling the ball around, trying to get a lot of different guys involved. But what I would say from Juju's takeaway is I still need to see more targets, man. 5 for 5 was good, but I want to see him in that 7-8 range again. Kelce comes away with 10 targets. He's the high target man as far as pass catchers are concerned, and it's Juju at 5, Hardman at 4, and a bunch of different guys at 3. I want to see more involvement from him. I want to see him in that 7 to 8 range because I think, and we saw it in this one, he can be effective when you at least target him. Because that's not a touchdown play that he scored on. I mean, we all know that. I mean, that's a tackle. You got 3 guys over there in that area. I mean, he moves the change, but you don't usually score on plays like that. Good things happen when Juju gets the ball, and I would like to see him get more involved. Let's go to that first interception, man, because we're going to fight on this one. And I've been fighting with everybody all week on this one. It's a bad throw. And we're looking at the video now. 3rd and goal. The Buffalo just gave you the turnover. And to me, I know what it is. It's Mahomes being Mahomes and extending the play. And we like seeing that from him and all the magic stuff. And even the Juju touchdown was a version of this. But in a heavyweight fight, when you look at the end of the game and you consider this possession and you consider the missed field goal from Harrison Butker, you really want those 6 points back at the end of the game.
Okay, so would you have said this is a bad throw if MVS comes down with that?
And I think that's where context matters because we haven't seen MVS come down with it yet. Maybe Mahomes has in practice, and he spent way more time throwing a football to him than any of us have. But you're backpedaling already, and there's two guys over there around him. It's a spectacular play. It's a spectacular play. You remember these Amazon commercials where they would show the percentages? The percentages are extremely low. Like I'm talking under 15% completion. Launch it into the stands, get your kicker an in rhythm kick, and go up 3-0 and get your defense back on the field. I know a lot of fans are going to say, yo, it's Mahomes, let Mahomes work, but it's his fatal flaw, in my opinion.
And see, this is where it just feels very hindsight-ish to me, because there's a lot of plays Mahomes make where the probability was very, very low, and it's ended up happening. And, you know, like I keep saying, I'll go back to the Steph Curry thing. When he misses 4 or 5 straight threes in a row from near half court, people are like, those are bad shots. Those are bad shots. But are they really bad shots when it's Steph Curry? Yeah, there's bad shots for Ben Simmons, even though he never shoots the ball. But, you know, other guys like that, right? Other guys that don't shoot the 3-ball well. It's bad shots for them. But can't we agree that Steph Curry is the anomaly? And I can say the same thing for Mahomes. Yeah, that's a bad decision for Kirk Cousins. That's a bad decision for Derek Carr. But we've seen Mahomes make those type of plays on a consistent basis to where I think he deserves the leeway. Don't you kind of get where I'm coming from on that one?
And this is where I say it's a double-edged sword, right? And Brett Veach even talked about this in the aftermath of last year's AFC Championship game. I know we hate talking about that game on this platform, but it's important in this context. He says the Chiefs' worst enemy sometimes is themselves. And I think in this situation, a lot of times we see Patrick Mahomes know that he has the ability to throw any guy open. I got a 6'4" receiver there in the corner with 2 smaller DBs on him. Ideally, I am more qualified than any quarterback in the world to make that throw. That doesn't necessarily make it the right decision. And ultimately, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to decide for himself what the perfect range is for that to be, because I think fans would be upset if he took that out of his game completely. That's not who he is. You know what I mean? Like, he is best when he plays who he is, but it's not a good throw.
That's what I was gonna say. So if you're Andy Reid, like, you don't coach that out of him, right? Like, what do you do? Like, do you just say, hey, we just live with it and fight on to the next one? Or do you tell him, you know, you got to be more selective? But then it's like, now you're in his head. Now it's like, oh, do I do the Mahomes magic now or not? Like, it's a weird thing, bro. I don't know how you talk to him about that.
Yeah, it's something that we're gonna see again, and I know for a fact it'll come up because we saw it in one of the biggest games last year. We saw it already in one of the biggest games this year in the first quarter. Kind of that double-edged sword of the Mahomes magic. Let's go on wax real quick as we wrap up this Chiefs-Bills game. Is that all right with you? We going on wax?
Let's do it.
It's an easy question. Do these two teams match up again in this year's NFL playoffs? Yes or no?
Yes. You want me to elaborate, or is that just yes or no?
Well, yeah, we do have a podcast. We gotta fill time. So
well, I didn't know.
If you could elaborate a little bit.
Okay. Well, nice. I have no problem doing that. I love talking. So any chance I get to talk more, I'm going to take it. But yeah, when you look at the landscape of the AFC, and before the year, the narrative was what a gauntlet the AFC is, especially the AFC West. Now you have the Broncos. They're at 2-4. The Raiders are 1-4. The Chargers are 4-2, but they're a really shaky 4-2. They shouldn't have. That Broncos game was ugly. If you watched that game Monday night, God bless your heart. But besides that, the Browns, they were saying maybe if they can hold water until Watson gets back. Well, they're 2-4 now. The Bengals are 3-3, so they're kind of figuring things out a little bit. The Ravens are 3-3. I mean, the AFC East, the Bills, the Jets. Do you really believe in the Jets at 4-2? The Dolphins are 3-3. The AFC South, nobody in the AFC South I'm taking seriously. So the AFC is not as tough as people thought it was going to be before the year. I think it's a clear gap between the Chiefs, Bills, and everyone else. And I don't see how they don't match up. I mean, who do you believe in that's going to mess it up? You trust the Ravens? You trust the Chargers?
The only pause I have in saying it's an absolute 100% lock it in, bet the house type yes, is that it's just so early. I mean, these teams are matched up in week 6. There's so much football left to play. God forbid anybody gets hurt, but we know that it's a grueling schedule down the stretch. I'm obviously going to say yes. I just think, these are the two best teams. And I thought being in Arrowhead, listening to the press conferences, listening back to the locker room sound. Had a chance to talk with Nick Bolton after the game one-on-one as well. That was really cool. Got some of that video up on Twitter. But the mutual admiration between these two teams is just completely evident. You didn't see the Bills. And somebody touched on this. I forgot who it is. I want to give credit to them. But if you remember when the Bills beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead last season in that rainy, sloppy mess, it was so out of hand for so long. And the Bills completely, I don't want to say over-celebrated, but you could tell that they were visibly excited. I remember people saying congrats on winning the Super Bowl because it looked like they were almost popping champagne. There was none of that this year. Despite how the game ended in what dramatic fashion it did, it was business as usual from Buffalo. And that kind of showed to me, these two teams know that, hey, this is round one of a heavyweight fight.
Well, to push back, though, did you see that video about the players on the sideline?
That was just perfect Mark propaganda. That was perfect. That was perfect Gunnels propaganda.
I'm just saying. I mean, you can't say that and not bring that up. I mean, is that not celebrating and kind of,
You got beat. And to Patrick Mahomes' point, anytime you get beat at home, it's a loss. NFL teams going into the year want to say, hey, we're winning all our games at home. We're 8-0 at home, and then we'll figure out how to do it on the road. Obviously, that's not realistic, but for Kansas City, it usually is. They were on an 8-game home winning streak up until this most recent game, and it was from the last time Buffalo beat them, I thought, at Arrowhead,
not counting the playoffs.
Yeah, well we don't talk about that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't lose at home. So I mean, they're gonna be emotional. This is a rivalry. I didn't think that was anything like. I thought stomping on the logo from the Raiders was way more.
Oh yeah. And the bus ride and all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. Little tomahawk chop or whatever. That's fine. You already know how I feel about that anyway. So win and that's not a problem.
No, for sure. But and also, let me just say this too.
For sure.
Can we talk about the 1 seed? Do you think that's pretty much a lock for the Bills at this point? Okay, if you look at
it's too early. It's too early.
Their schedule is really, really light, though, man. And I can see a scenario, best case, they tie, and then obviously the Bills have the tiebreaker. It's going to be really hard to get that 1 seed for the Chiefs.
Let's get in this grab bag. We are having some fun here on Chiefs Coast to Coast. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. If you got comments, questions, concerns, we'll get to those at the end of the show. We got a couple of voicemails that we'll get to later in the pod as well. Yeah, voicemails. Y'all been rocking with us on the voicemail line. It's a little different. I know a lot of people wondering where the spaces are. I even text Mark. I was like, right after the game, I was like, well, it wasn't right after the game, but
it was like 7 hours after the game.
I was trying to give y'all a space. A lot of people have been clamoring for the space. This was one of the few times that, we got to mark this down in history. Mark Gunnels could not go into space. He was preoccupied. That's crazy, man.
It was like 11 o'clock at night. It was like 1 o'clock your time.
I got to look back. I don't know if it was that late, but I have a responsibility. I have duties for KSHB 41 that I have to perform. And then by the time I finally get home and, get in the mode where I want to do a space, it was a little late. Well, I figured you were on the West Coast,
Hey, man, I have to wake up early. I have work in the morning, man.
We'll get to y'all on the spaces, I promise. But in the meantime, if you want to tap in with us on the show, leave a voicemail, 816-514-1267 is the line. We got a couple of those coming up later in the show, but the grab bag starts with that 3-letter name that you mentioned before. And it's about that time in the year, right? The weather's turning, the leaves are changing, and Odell Beckham is looking for a new home. And allegedly, the Kansas City Chiefs are high on his list.
If you can't tell, I'm pretty giddy right now.
Oh, my gosh.
I love these skill position players. I love these receivers. I'm all for giving Mahomes as many weapons as possible. Go get OBJ. Hashtag OBJ to KC. Make it happen. Look, any chance you get to improve this team and any chance you get to make Mahomes happy, you do it. OBJ, he's coming off the ACL. I get it, but he's going to be very cheap. He shouldn't cost that much. You're only going to have him for maybe 6 to 8 games, maybe a little bit more, including the playoffs. I think you make it happen. He's been flirting on Twitter. People have been saying Bills or Chiefs. He's responding.
Did you see the emoji thing today? He tweeted the emoji.
It's cryptic tweet season.
Oh, I hate it.
Make it happen, man, because he adds another dimension to this offense. He's a guy that can take the ball and he gets a lot of yak, right? He's not Tyreek Hill. Nobody's Tyreek Hill, but he does bring kind of that type of element to your offense, considering he's still going to be that same guy. Look what he did for the Rams last year. He took their offense to a totally different level, and they already had Cooper Kupp. We already have Travis Kelce. So Kelsey's going to be the possession guy in the middle of the field. OBJ is capable of taking it over the top, taking the top off the defense. And I think for him, it makes perfect sense because you come to a team where you're looking as OBJ, in his mind, he's like, I'll be the best receiver in this receiving room. Now, will that be true? I'm not sure, but in his mind, I'm sure he's thinking that. You go to Buffalo, you're clearly behind Stephon Diggs. And even Gabe Davis may have an argument because he's been looking really good. So if you come here, you got Travis Kelce, and you have the offensive mind in Andy Reid, right? I think that's very enticing. And then obviously playing with Patrick Mahomes. So I think it makes a lot of sense for him to come to Kansas City. I never thought it was possible until lately because we talked about this earlier in the season. We were like,
training camp, it felt like
OBJ's not going to be open. He's not going to be on Westport. He's not going to be at L House. He's not going to be on the Plaza. But now I think it's a real chance because the Rams are a complete mess. Why would he want to return back to that? And who knows what the record is going to be at that point? And I will say this, rumors are saying that they lowballed him. They haven't gave their last offer yet. He's not going to return until mid-November, late November. Guess who the Chiefs play on November 27th?
Who's that, Mark?
LA Rams. Perfect story.
I don't have much to add to it. I'll add this from Aaron Wilson on Twitter. Chiefs regarded as a strong contender for veteran free agent wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. per league sources. As he contemplates options, continues to make steady progress in his recovery from a torn ACL. Potential connection between OBJ and Patrick Mahomes is intriguing. It's like Groundhog's Day around Kansas City. We had this exact same conversation around this exact same time or a little bit later last year. Kansas City's wide receiver options were good, but could they be better? Odell was flirting. Odell was talking to all the top teams. And Kansas City's always seemingly in the mix. When you have 15 as your quarterback and Travis Kelce out there as well, and you've got the championship pedigree and the mind of Andy Reid, as you mentioned, you're always going to be in that mix for top free agents, veteran free agents. We know what this is. This is a 6-week deal. This is an 8-week deal. This is a come for the playoffs. This is get healthy and play your role. We'll simplify the offense down for you to be able to come in and contribute. But my two pushbacks are, at what cost? Do you cut Sky Moore's production? Do you cut Sky Moore's confidence in him building up back into his role in his offense by bringing in an Odell Beckham? Do you signal to McCole Hardman that, maybe this isn't a long-term home for you, that we're still trying to figure out who can fill the production of that role in that offense? It's going to be interesting to say. And this is all kicked off by Kelce restructuring, and he's been killing the podcast game too, man. That show, the clips are everywhere. He knows what he's doing, and kudos to him for restructuring that deal. I think it was like $3.5 million or something like that. And he mentioned that, hey, something's in the air. If it's not OBJ, it's somebody. Brett Veach is working.
And yeah, I got more to add to this. Yeah, like you said, the easy answer is McCole Hardman, right? There's no reason at this point, we're year 4? This is year 4 for Hardman.
Contract year.
We're still having these kind of communication issues with Mahomes and maybe running the wrong routes and not being at the right spot at the right time. Why are we still having that? And in his limited opportunities, Sky Moore is making the most of it. He had a nice catch on Sunday for about 20 yards. I think the easy answer would be McCole, because after this year, I truly believe that they're going to let him walk and they're going to cut ties. So they don't have to feel obligated to him moving forward or even this year, because they, in their mind, I'm imagining that he's going to be gone after this season. I think the priority would be to resign Juju out of those two guys. You have to pick one. And not to mention, think about this. The last two guys that the Chiefs got that said no the first time ended up being a Chief. Remember Melvin Ingram
and Juju. Yeah.
And Juju. It's hard to say no to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes twice. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I got nothing else on that. Let's go quickly on some defensive reinforcements. Help is on the way. Willie Gay suspension has been served. Andy Reid kind of mum about it today. We'll see how he does, but it's hard to imagine he's not right back out there against the Niners. He seemed pretty hype on Instagram, posted that little return video, and we know how badly and sorely missed his playmaking ability is needed on that defensive side of the ball alongside Nick Bolton. And then Trent McDuffie practiced today, a good sign. Andy Reid said on Monday that if he's able to go through the full week of practice, he'll be out there. I know it's bye week next week, and a lot of people were wondering, well, just give him the extra 2 weeks or 3 weeks or what it is to just knock it out of the way. Andy Reid saying, nope. If we think he's ready to go this week, he'll go. And those are big reinforcements for KC.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially lately when you see the Chiefs are getting gashed on the ground. I think Willie Gay helps that a lot as far as filling those gaps with his speed, his physicality. So I think that would be a major, major help. And he'll be back on Sunday for sure. And as far as Trent McDuffie, I was actually of the thinking, like people were saying before, about, they got the bye after this. Just let them rest through the bye. But now I've changed my tune because I think it actually helps the case to play him this Sunday. Because you do have the bye after this. So, yeah, get him out there. Let him get his feet wet. I'm not going to say he's going to play all the snaps, but at least, give him some reps. And then you got the bye to have a little extra rest after that. So I do think it actually makes more sense to play him so he can get his feet wet. So when he comes back from the bye, he's not so cold, right? And then also in this matchup, this isn't like an air attack team they're going against. The Niners want to run the ball and beat you on the ground. Jimmy G's not going to just light you up and throw for over 300 yards. So it's not like you're going against a top quarterback and a top passing attack. So I think this is actually a really good, comfortable spot to bring him back in.
I think his return also could possibly help the defensive line. I know people have been asking for more pass rush, more pressure. Those corners being a little bit stickier, a little bit less separation, helping the quarterback hold the ball just a tick longer. Maybe Frank Clark gets home. Maybe some of those missed sacks and close near sacks, those almost Tom and Jerry style sacks where you see two Chiefs run into each other and the quarterback escape out. Maybe those turn into sacks on the stat sheet with Trent McDuffie and Willie Gay back in there for Kansas City. Let's transition into this Niners preview, man. We're rolling right along. Chiefs coast to coast. Mark Gunnels on the West Coast. Aaron Ladd is a kid from Kansas City currently here in the 816. Chiefs, Niners.
Just disown you, man. That's nasty.
Nah, man. Hey, people know what it is. I was just home on Tuesday for the Braves game, and people show love,
Yeah, and they lost. You probably should stay away.
You had to. I know you're not talking with your Dodgers because, that was worse. That was worse. Arguably worse. I know we were the defending champs, but that op-ed from the LA Times and the 100 plus win season, yeah.
That was a meltdown. That was a big meltdown. Big meltdown.
That's because you out there. The Chiefs are playing the Niners this week, and they are on that bye week the week after, as we mentioned, but not looking ahead to that. They're focused on the Niners, and they need to be focused on the Niners because this is a good opponent that they're facing, road opponent that they're facing, and one of the best defenses in the league as well. Patrick Mahomes says, guys need to come in extremely focused this week.
Yeah, and it looks like they may be getting a lot of guys.
After losing the game and then turning on the film and watching this opponent we're about to play, guys better be locked in because if we don't play our best football, we're not going to win. So guys will be locked in and ready to go.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
Sorry,
you got the rundown too. I was throwing the lob. It was like a jelly layup.
That was my bad. I got too excited and I interrupted Mahomes, man. I should never do that.
They need to be focused.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You got the bye coming up, so obviously, a lot of guys look forward to that bye week, right? It's a time to kind of reset, go back to your hometown.
Reset.
Reset. Go back to the crib, go see your favorite restaurant in the hood. You know how guys are on the bye week, man. See the fam, probably eat a little bad that you're not supposed to, get a little fat. So, you got to be focused, man, especially going against the Niners team that came off in a very, very embarrassing loss to your hometown team, the Atlanta Falcons. Very embarrassing loss to them. but they were extremely banged up. And it looks like they're going to get a lot of reinforcements potentially back this week. Trent Williams was back at practice. Nick Bosa was there limited. Maybe the former old friend may play. Who knows? Charvarius Ward. So we're going to see, man. It's funny how guys tend to get healthy during Chiefs week. It's very, very funny how that happens a lot of times. But, it's a great challenge. Rematch of the Super Bowl from a few years ago. A lot of those guys are still on that team, have a lot of sour taste in their mouth. So, yeah, it's going to be a big challenge, but I think the Chiefs will come out focused and ready for this game.
You mentioned Charvarius Ward. This is from @It'sLilMooney on Twitter.
Mooney.
Please don't allow no red and yellow jerseys in Levi Stadium next week, faithful. Fill it up, red and gold. The replies to that were just, why even set yourself up like that? I mean, just know that you're going to get, I didn't even think he's going to get booed. Like if there's Chiefs fans in the building and he makes a play, they might be upset, but he's not somebody that Chiefs fans are angry at, are they?
No, I think it's more with him within himself. I think he probably feels like the Chiefs felt like they didn't need him because they didn't give him the bag like the Niners did. And he's like, oh, you think you could just move on without me and draft the first-round corner? You're going to be okay?
A little sour grapes? You think it's a little sour grapes over there?
And then obviously the Chiefs, he knows how good the Chiefs have been and how good they're still going to be. Now, he went to a great team himself, obviously, but, he won a ring with the Chiefs, right? So it's a lot of personal attachment there as well. So I think he felt like, wow, you guys didn't value me like that? Okay, so now I'm going to be a little petty. So I think that's all it is.
We talk a lot about the Chiefs' first 8 games or the first 8 teams they'll face this year and how it's the toughest stretch in NFL history. But this 2-game stretch specifically, extremely tough based on how the teams have done this year. The Chiefs have drawn the NFL's #1 offense and #1 defense in consecutive weeks. Buffalo led the league in yards per game entering week 6. And San Francisco leads the league in fewest yards allowed entering week 7. You can't sleep on the Niners. It's a road game. It's a longer flight, I guess, technically than usual going out. I mean, you're in KC, so I guess halfway through. But the offense needs to come out. If you think 20 points is going to get it done or 24 points, whatever, I don't know. I think Chiefs, Niners, I think KC's going to need to bring a more consistent offense than they did against Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they will, man. I think the key is sticking to the run game. I know this is like beating a dead horse with Andy Reid, right? But you have to keep defenses honest, especially when they have a great pass rush like the Niners do, assuming that Nick Bosa is back. You can't just allow him to pin his ears back on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, right? And obvious passing down. So they have to establish the run game, even the quick pass game. I want to see some more screens as well with the running back.
You asked for that last week, yeah.
I know, man. They tried it a couple times, but I want to see more of it. I really think they need to use CEH more in the passing game. And McKinnon.
We're asking for more CEH now, huh?
Well, in the passing game, yes, in the passing game, because that's where they drafted him for, right? So I do want to see more of that. And McKinnon as well. He's a former Niner too, so maybe a little personal fill in there with him as well in this matchup.
Yeah, we mentioned the Niners being the league's best defense as far as yards allowed, but as far as points per game, they're second in the league, about 15 points per game allowed, which is an insane number. I mean, playing the Falcons will do that to anybody, but this is not an opponent you can sleep on. I will say this is drumming up a lot of positive memories about the Super Bowl, obviously. Patrick Mahomes asked about that Super Bowl victory. Andy Reid asked about WASP and how that changed not only that game specifically, but kind of the trajectory of how Chiefs fans view the franchise. Obviously that changed that game going forward and then winning the Super Bowl and kind of going forward with all those things. What's your lasting memory? If you have one, I know this is a podcast and we can talk for a while, but if you had one,
if I had one would it be? One, I mean, obviously the clear one is WASP, right? But let me not.
But did you think the game was won in that moment? Because that's what I asked Chiefs fans a lot. Like, yeah, they got a big chunk play out of that, but you still had to score, I think, twice, right?
Yeah, it was 20-10 at that point, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
They ended up scoring, make it 20-17. But I mean, I think you can say the game was won there because don't forget that was like third and 15. Like it was third down. So if you don't get that, I mean, in desperation, you probably have to go for it on 4th and 15 because it's in the fourth quarter, it's Super Bowl. But the odds of you getting that are very, very low. So I mean, I think you can say that probably did win the game.
Yeah, I don't know if really that game. I mean, obviously some warm fuzzies maybe. It's not being played in the same stadium. You said a lot of guys on the team are still there. I didn't do any notes or anything, but are a lot of the same guys on the team there? I mean, I know Garoppolo is there, but
those are like the main guys: Garoppolo, Debo, Kittle, Trent
okay.
Williams, Nick
Yeah.
Bosa.
I think the crazy thing is how much Kansas City has turned over since that game. And Coach Henry was kind of asked about that. Like the fact that they're still contending, still seen as one of these top few teams in the AFC after basically flipping their roster, flipping their starters, flipping all these guys, investing in young players. Just 3 years later, you come back with 15, who's already been to a number of Super Bowls since then. I that's kind of what I think about more.
The only guys from offense in that game is just Mahomes and Kelsey, right?
I believe so. There,
Hardman too.
Oh yeah, I forgot. But I'll have to look back on that. We'll get a tweet out about that. Yeah. I think one of the funniest things, because I wasn't in KC for that. I was watching that as a neutral observer. I lived in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at the time. I think one of the funniest things is one of my first press availabilities after that, Tyreek was talking about going to Club Live and how they just lived. I was like, okay, well, I know it. That was my introduction to like Tyreek and his availabilities.
Wow.
Yeah, Chiefs Niners Sunday from I wanted to say Candlestick. I was like this close to saying Candlestick. What is the name? Levi.
Yeah.
From
in
Levi.
Santa Clara. It's not even in San Francisco. It's in Santa Clara.
I think actually the Chiefs. I don't think actually the Chiefs and Niners played. I think preseason last year in a game that I.
Yeah, it was.
That was the first preseason game.
Trey Lance's first game.
That was, and he threw that touchdown, and we haven't heard from Devin Key ever since. I think Devin Key is still.
He was like a big camp. He was a big camp guy. Like
he's still at Levi Stadium right now, waiting for that callback from the Chiefs.
Oh, you're wrong for that.
Yo, my bad. If Devin Key's listening, I apologize.
Yeah.
You were a camp all-star, and I wrote a couple stories about you, so go read them. Let's go to Vegas real quick. How about that? Mark went. Yeah, I mean, you went 1-1 last week. You only had 2 picks. Starter just threw it up on the screen. Chiefs 2.5 points, which interesting. We'll see if that's one of your picks. Let me recap what you did last week. You took the over total points on the game, which I think was one of the most popular bets in America last week. And Vegas just absolutely cleaned off the entire table and dumped it in and said, thank you very much. The under hit at 44 points, which is nuts. I know a lot of people lost money there, but you got it back. Bills cover at 2.5 with them winning by 4. You go 1-1 last week. 7-8 on the year. This is the last week before the bye, so you've burned up all of your goodwill. We're judging from here on out, and this is a chance to go above 500 down the stretch. What you got for us, Mark?
So I have 3 plays this week.
There we go. I'm proud of you. What you got?
Okay, so one of them actually is what's on this lower third right here. Chiefs minus 2.5. I love this number. I think it's too low. They're giving too much credit for the home team, right? If this game was in Arrowhead, the Chiefs would be favored by at least 5, right? So give me Chiefs minus 2.5. Coming off a loss, you got Willie Gay coming back, probably Trent McDuffie. The offense had a slow game. I know they're going against the top defense, but they're banged up. Still may have guys coming back, but how healthy are they really going to be? And I still question, will these guys really come back? Because they play the Rams next week. That's a more important game for the Niners than the Chiefs game. So I could see a situation where they're like, okay, game time. You know what? Let's sit them another week because we have a big divisional game against the Rams next week, and they have a bye after that. So I could see the thinking there. So just monitor that. But regardless, I have the Chiefs minus 2.5. I like that a lot. I got the Chiefs by a touchdown in this game. Not 2. I know you want the 2. Just a touchdown.
That's your catchphrase. But
touchdown.
We'll take them by 1. What else you got for us?
And my player props. I got the over on Juju's receiving yards at 49.5. I think this is incredibly low considering what he did last week. I think him and Mahomes are building chemistry by the week. So I expect them to get more targets, as you were alluding to earlier, by the week. I do think he will get that 7 to 8 this week. And he catches everything. He doesn't drop anything. I don't think he has one drop all year. And he was 5 for 5 last week. Expect a 7 for 7 or 7 for 8 this week. And I think he clearly gets over 49.5 yards. And then my last play, I'm going to the other side. I'm going to enemy lines this time. I'm taking the under on Jeff Wilson's rushing yards at 50.5. Last week against your Falcons, he only had 25 yards, but they didn't run him as much. But I can see a scenario where that happens again. If they get behind early, you're not going to be able to run the ball as much, right? And I can see the Chiefs jumping out to an early 10-0, 14-0 type lead, right? I can see that happen. I really can. So considering that, I think they may have to abandon the run game. And with Jeff Wilson, he's the running back number 1 right now. And actually, I misspoke. I'm sorry. It's actually 60.5. It's not 50.5. It's 60.5. I'm sorry.
60.5.
It's 60.5. Yeah, 60.5. So
that helps. That helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot. That's a big difference.
That might be the difference right there.
Yes, 10 yards is a lot. So I like the under there. I think with Willie Gay back and Trent McDuffie back as well, even in the back end, I think that helps the front line, as you alluded to earlier as well. So I like the under there as well. So those are my 3 plays. Chiefs minus 2.5. The over on Juju's receiving yards at 49.5. And the under on Jeff Wilson's rushing yards at 60.5.
Mark is handing out winners. I actually have a good feeling about these. I think you get above 500 going into the bye. 46 minutes, and we're still not yet getting to the comments. One of my favorite parts of the show. We got some comments here. We got voicemails here. Serta's in the back chopping up tape. Look at him. He's just throwing lower thirds up. I mean, the production quality. We came a long way from the space. Let me say that.
Hey, man. It's still uncharted territory for me. I just breathe better in space, which is crazy, right? Like the air just feels better to me in space. So I'm struggling down here with you guys on Earth, with you little people.
Sir, to hit the voicemail, please.
I don't think that the Chiefs should go after Odell Beckham Jr. I think they should focus on the defensive line.
Pretty short and concise there. Appreciate whoever that was chiming in. I would love for y'all to rock with us and leave your name so we could shout you out. Maybe your name and where you're from, listening from. It's always cool to see how far the Chiefs kingdom spreads. I kind of am with this anonymous caller. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is a need. I think he's more of a want. I think he's more of a sizzle than your steak. I think, and we've mentioned this earlier, at what cost does Odell Beckham come with? If he's a lottery ticket and it's the 6-week thing and he's coming in just to run his routes and you got a package for him and whatever, and he makes you more dynamic and you feel like you can make it work, sure. But I don't think that he makes Kansas City exponentially better.
I mean, if you had to pick between OBJ or getting a pass rusher or D lineman, I would go D lineman. I know I was really hyped about the OBJ thing, and I still am. But if you had to pick one or the other, I think that is a bigger need. I agree with you on that. Because, I mean, for all the stuff that we're talking about the offense, they're still first in points per game in the league. They're averaging nearly 30 points a game. So, like you said, I do think it's more of a want. But if you can get them, then I'll still get them.
Shelly and Richie King, OBJ is a cool sign, but don't need him. D-line or C cornerback would fill a need. Yeah, I mean, and Darius Smith, one of our photographers at KSH before he went, we watched pretty much all the games from the same vantage point, and he immediately wanted KC to go out and sign someone, and I didn't get that reaction from Chiefs Bills. To me, it was a last guy with the ball has a shot at winning the game, and like I said to start off this pod, if you're giving me Mahomes with 1:04 left against anybody, I'm taking that. And that was with your 2 corners being rookies and Willie Gay being out. Let's hold our water a little bit. Let's yellow light together and get through this without any. And Shelly and Richie King jump in and say maybe a tackle. That ain't bad either, Mark.
Yeah, especially right tackle. I mean, Wiley had a really, really rough game. Really, really rough game. But I think it's one of those situations we're going to have to just live with and just give him a little help. And maybe if Niang comes back, maybe you throw Niang in there. Maybe but I don't know.
What else we got on the
There's no
voicemail, sir?
answer.
I'm gonna be honest. My hottest Chiefs take is the play calling is holding us back. We play like we got the lead or something. We should not be playing like that. Put the team away, keep putting them away, step on their throat. Second hot take. Clyde Edwards-Helaire's ass. Get that man off the field. Pacheco and McKinnon should be the only ones playing. That's it. That's all I got.
Didn't want to put his name on that one either. It's crazy. These sound like hostage style videos. Dudes don't want to leave their name. It's like written in chicken scratch, the anonymous CEH shot at the end. You go first on this one because you know how I feel.
You take the CH. The play calling. I didn't feel the way about them not being aggressive enough. I thought sometimes they're maybe being too aggressive, especially before halftime. If you remember the possession before the Bills' 98-yard drive, they had the ball near midfield. On first down, they passed the ball, incompletion. So now you have to pass the ball on second down. I think Mahomes got sacked, and then you're in a third and long. You have no chance. Why don't you run the ball on that first down? Because even if you get nothing, you at least waste some clock. If the Bills do get the ball back, you're still near midfield, and you may even get 3 or 4 yards there. But now, since you got an incompletion, you're forced to pass. Now you get sacked, and the drive is dead. The Bills should even got the ball back in that situation. And that's one drive nobody's talking about. I think that was a key pivotal point in the game because you had a chance to double up because you get the ball back to start the second half. So you could have went down there and scored with the Bills not getting the ball back, and you get the ball back to start the second half. Then now you got to punt. The Bills go down and score. That was the key moment in the game for me.
Yeah, I don't really question most of the play calling. To me, I agree with more of the chat here. Sometimes it's just execution. That Michael Burton drop that, to your point, not many people are talking about. There are some key plays in this game that could have decided it. That killed a drive. That ended up turning into, I believe, 3 instead of 7. Or it. There are times when they don't fully click on all cylinders, and we've seen that in the past. The CEH thing, I crunched the numbers: 393 and 5 touchdowns through 6 weeks. I don't see where you're getting ass from that. This is classic. This is classic Chiefs wanting to Chiefs Kingdom not really loving CEH, but I think it's actually something interesting that from Andy Reid's press conference today, and maybe not a lot of people will catch this. He was asked about, and this was from the head honcho himself, Pete Sweeney of Arrowhead Pride, asked him how he decides which running back is going to go in. Is it a hot hand thing? Do they have plays designed for one another? How do you make that decision? And Andy Reid let it slip. We do hot hands sometimes. They all have packages, but we try to keep it as close to 50-50 as we can. We knew this coming into the year. I mean, we knew that it was a split backfield. We knew, CEH wasn't the original guy, but for him to be one half of your two-headed monster, to have given you 5 scores and 393 through 6 weeks, you're thrilled if you're a Chiefs fan. And back to one of our older on wax segments, I got him being over 1,000 yards and a double-digit touchdown guy for KC this year, and that's a win for Kansas City. So. For Chiefs Kingdom who don't like 25, I guess you're gonna have to swallow that horse pill like medicine because it's gonna be a steady dose of him all year long.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I think you live what you're getting from CH right now. I mean, he's on pace for your prediction, like for sure. He already has 5 touchdowns, so he's definitely on pace to get double-digit touchdowns, and he's on pace to go over 1,000 yards. So I think you should be happy with that. I don't know what the expectations were before some people before the year, but I think it's just people are just ragging on CEH. Just the easy thing to do at this point. So no matter what he does, people are going to complain.
It's like people ragging on you for your picks. I mean, that's just the easy thing to do, right? Say bet the house. Ha 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 ha. That's a low hanger.
You're the one that do it. You're the main culprit.
Good show, man. We put on over an hour of content, and I think this is going to be the double-edged sword for our audience. It's a bye week. They call it a bye week for a reason. We're going to go bye-bye next week. No show. Do the Steph Curry. Do the night. No Chiefs coast to coast. on October 26th. That's going to be the bye week, and I think a lot of the shows on the network are doing the same. Maybe we'll throw in a spaces for you.
We'll do a space.
We'll throw a spaces in. Mark and I have committed to trying to schedule one out, and we'll get one when he's not off the little sip off the drink. We'll get one when he's in good mind, and or maybe not, or maybe not. Our next show is November 2nd. I just want to make sure I got that in there. November 2nd. In the meantime, 816-514-1267 if you want to holler at us.
BJ. He'll be a Chief by our next show.
Oh, my gosh. We're out of here. Goodbye. Appreciate y'all.